At a House Energy and Commerce markup hearing on December 3rd, Congress clashed over showerhead regulations. Watch the sparks fly as representatives debate whether these rules go too far and what it means for consumers.
Today we're actually going to talk about common sense. Under the previous administration, we witnessed federal bureaucrats take something as ordinary and uncontroversial as a showerhead and quite literally reinvent the definition of it, resulting in these pointless showerheads that sprinkle water on your head. Only in a bureaucracy could you create a rule that makes you spend a longer time in the shower using more water while still feeling less clean when you leave. Everyday Americans never asked for this. Plumbers never asked for this. Manufacturers certainly did not. But Washington regulators decided to start splashing around in micromanagement. And when bureaucrats start changing the meaning of everyday household products, families and businesses pay the price. And no one likes weak showerheads. Literally nobody likes weak showerheads. Weak showers are for sad motels and gyms built in the 1970s. If we wanted a gentle mist as our shower, we would just stand in front of a humidifier. So that's why I introduced the Shower Act, because no one wants to be waterboarded by a trickle at 6 a.m. in the morning. This bill does one thing. It codifies the industry standard definition of a showerhead, the same one used nationwide by engineers, plumbers, and manufacturers. Nothing new, nothing exotic at all, no taxpayer burden, just clarity. Why does this matter? Because when political control changes hands, regulations shouldn't ricochet back and forth like a ping pong match. Now, we've heard loud and clear that some on the other side of the aisle think that this bill is a, quote, waste of time. I understand the political theater, I guess, but the opposition isn't really about plumbing, it's about politics. If the bill weren't supported by voices outside of this room that they don't like, and I'll give you one guess who that might be, Democrats would probably be tripping over themselves to take credit for streamlining consumer standards. So let's not pretend this is about water pressure, it's about political pressure. But the bottom line is simple. The Shower Act restores common sense, protects consumer choice, reins in needless bureaucracy, and costs the taxpayers exactly $0. It doesn't leave anyone high and dry, except maybe the regulators who wanted to keep rewriting the script. For consumers that choose a low-flow trickle showerhead, let them make that choice. That's up to them. For the rest of America, let them pick something that gets the job done. Your hair and your shampoo shouldn't require a 4-year evacuation plan. I urge my colleagues to support this straightforward bill. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you. We appreciate. We applaud you showering us with your wisdom. We appreciate it very much. So, anyone want to speak? Anybody else wanting to speak on the bill? The gentlelady from Florida is recognized for 5 minutes to speak on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought about filing an amendment to rename the bill the Completely Out of Touch Act, but I think that's fairly obvious. This bill and most of the energy bills before us today simply demonstrate how out of touch the policies of Republicans in Congress are. You know, you would have thought that after 2 months, when the Speaker shut down the House of Representatives and members were at home for 2 months, that they would have rushed back to the Congress to work on anything to lower the cost of living. But alas, no. Their priority is to talk about showerheads. I know the President doesn't want to talk about affordability. He said that explicitly. In fact, yesterday he said this whole affordability thing is a con job. The President and House Republicans appear to be completely distracted from what is important. The President has focused on giving the White House a makeover. He tore down the entire East Wing to make way for a 90,000 square foot, $300 million ballroom funded by corporations who have something to gain from this administration. That ballroom has gone from 500 square feet to 650 square feet to 999 square feet. Now it's proposed to over 1,300 square feet. You can't make this up. He's covered the Oval Office and seemingly every surface he can find with bargain bin gold gilding. Have you heard about the Arc de Trump that he is planning to construct between the Lincoln Memorial and Arlington National Cemetery for over $100 million. And his latest project has been renovating the Lincoln bathroom, complete with golden shower heads. Yeah, this tells you about exactly what President Trump and Republicans care about. Meanwhile, our neighbors back home are facing a holiday season with much higher costs, higher inflation. Inflation's gone up just about every month of the Trump administration. His import taxes and tariffs now are the highest since 1935. It's estimated that all of the tariffs now are adding about $1,700 per household across the country, and you laugh. You laugh, ha-ha, shower heads. This is what we should focus on, and you've completely abdicated any responsibility to push back on these arbitrary illegal tariffs. Meanwhile, you refuse to discuss any solution to the healthcare cliff that 40 million Americans are facing. Over 4 million of my Florida neighbors now feel like they're being pushed off the cliff by Republicans in Congress who refuse to develop a solution. But shower heads, that's important. Besides healthcare cost hikes, 80 million Americans are struggling to pay their utility bills. They're forced to make the impossible choice between paying for housing, medicine, food, or to keep the lights on. Under the Republican Big Ugly Bill, electricity prices will increase 61% over the next decade. That's on top of the $29 billion in electricity bills rate hike. In Florida, Florida Power and Light and TECO and Duke Energy have all gotten price hikes. They've called them the largest in the history of the country, billions of dollars in rate hikes. But shower heads, you know, there are real problems that we can solve together. People deserve so much better than what this Republican Congress is providing. This committee should serve the American people, not genuflect to the president over his shower heads. We don't need to redefine what constitutes a shower head. The only thing that this bill does is create more regulatory uncertainty. It could lead to rollbacks. It's contrary to the law, the Energy Policy and Conservation Act. It likely will benefit foreign manufacturers. This bill also requires enforcement at the Department of Energy, but the president has fired arbitrarily public servants who served there. Well over 3,500 employees have left. And you know, there is one simple solution. It's called going down to your hardware store to address the line buildup in your line. Mm-hmm. You don't need to pass a law. You don't need to ignore the real needs of our families and small businesses back home. You don't need to laugh and bring this and turn a blind eye to the grift and corruption that runs deep in this administration. We can work together and solve real problems. I'm not going to give up hope on that, but this pushes us farther away from that goal today. I urge my colleagues to oppose this bill, and I yield back.
Thank you. The gentlelady yields back. Is there further discussion on the bill? The gentlewoman from Iowa, you're recognized for 5 minutes to speak on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Despite my petite stature, I use more water per square inch than most members. And despite the gentle lady from Florida putting a damper on this bill, I would say you won't get in hot water by voting, so I encourage my colleagues to support it.
Gentlelady yields back. We recognize Dr. Schreier for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you. I colleagues.
That blind eye to a president who literally slept. I would just like to remind my colleague on the other side that went off on the Trump administration. The affordability issue was caused by the Biden administration and congressional Democrats turning a blind eye to what was happening in America when inflation rose 11, 12, 20%. They turned a blind eye to inflation rising faster than incomes to meet it. They turned a blind eye to a president who literally sleptwalked through his entire presidency, and the American people suffered for it. It is because of Democrats that we are even in a healthcare discussion right now, because Obamacare was told that premiums would rise if you pass it, and guess what it did? And Democrat votes passed it again in the COVID era before my time here in Congress, when everyone said, if you do this, premiums will rise, and guess what? They did. So this entire first year, to the member from Florida, is correcting the big mistakes that Democrats have made at the expense of the American people. So they can make this cute with the president putting a shower head on, but again, this is about personal choice. Why is it Washington, D.C.'s prerogative to come in and tell the rest of the country on this small bill or anything big that they should have one standard for the entire country? People should make that personal choice. Most people that I talk to want real showers. If they want to be spritzed like a potted plant, they can go get that shower head. But that's not what we're about. This is about personal choice. It's about responsibility. And the distraction and the rhetoric about the failures of the Trump administration, I just find that really rich, coming from a party that caused the healthcare problem that we're in right now and caused the economic damage that the American people currently feel.
As a person who has installed their own shower heads, who has, encountered this, if you are having a dribbly shower, is this not a water pressure issue in your home? I mean, generally, like mechanically, I'm trying to engage this in good faith, genuinely. And secondly, it seems as though we're blaming the shower head on a water pressure issue, and in doing so, we are deregulating a piece of hardware that actually drives people's water bills up. And if we want to talk about affordability, and if we want to be in touch with working people's lives, my hope is that we've had that experience, that we know the things that we're legislating, and why would we make this affordability problem worse? I mean, I'm really trying to approach this earnestly. And if we can solve this problem by addressing a water pressure issue, there's no need to be changing regulations that increase people's water bills in the name of quote unquote personal choice. This is how our healthcare system got deregulated too. People talking about, Americans should have the personal choice of getting totally fleeced by their health insurance companies. Americans should have the personal choice of having industries deregulated to the point that they are unloading costs onto everyday working people. And so, I appreciate the efforts put into the limericks and such here, but really, as someone who's trying to approach this matter in good faith, I genuinely try not to approach legislation of just being reflexively Republican, but as a person who does care about costs, I worry that these weakened standards are going to drive up people's water bills. I worry about the environmental impact of it. Drought is genuinely a problem. And I kind of don't, it really may be a water pressure issue, genuinely. And so I say this because I just kind of want to give credence to the concerns that are put around this, and I'm not sure that those underlying concerns have been addressed. And with that, I yield back.
For more congressional news, stay tuned to Congress Clips, and thanks for watching.